this time of the year, whether it's in school or some of our parents that are doing what they do to run around for their kids. So we'll just get started. This will be an unofficial type of meeting. We'll kind of table the minutes until next time they're posted there, but I'll share my screen so that you guys can see what the agenda is. Did put this in our email to all of you, but we're going to quickly go through some MTSS expectations that are set for next year and the things that we're thinking about. DCP goals, we already reviewed those with you, but we'll talk a little bit about our action planning. And you guys are aware of this in terms of cell phone policy already. So this should be a rather short meeting today. Having said that, we'll get started. Couple of things that I did share with our principals that I want to make sure that is available to all of you guys to see. Even though Eden, right now, you're the only one who hasn't seen kind of this space. It's just a space of living in gratitude and this importance of kind of making sure that we're staying connected and doing the work as a community. Real big push for us this year is that space of community and the alignment to this wellness, kindness, and community space that was created by our CEC and district. So a lot of that we'll try to continue to connect with as we go through the year. But what I'd like to do just for a moment is tap into the June instructional report. And Eden, I would like you to have your eyes on this too. So if you don't have the link for the presentation, I will put it into the chat. We spent some time going over this at our principals meeting. And what you'll see is this report. It's a little bit different from what our principals have seen, but I did want our parents to take a look at this. This is currently our performance against New York City. So this line here compared to this line here for this year, this is our grade level at the top, grade level standards, writing standards, and then overall performance at the far right. Down here is how we compared to New York City as a whole. And then we have our grade levels all the way across 8th grade in reading and mathematics. Today, we'll just spend a little bit of time talking about math and about reading. I will put this into the chat. We can just spend about the next, 10 minutes or so, just giving a quick once over of what the June instructional reports look like. And then we'll come back together for a quick little chat. I put the spreadsheet into the chat for you. Oh, it's not, okay. Then share it with everyone. That would be helpful.
Yeah, it's asking us for access.
Okay, I'm sharing it with you guys now. Okay, all of you guys should have access now if you just refresh your screen. You can pop in to that document just to review for a few minutes. I will set my timer. Just anything that you notice in terms of performance that you want to call out. If you want to just identify a grade, you can do 3, 4, or 5. If you're related to elementary school in Eden, that would make the most sense for you. Jen, certainly for you too, although you had a chance to review this already. Just give it a once over and anything that you want to call out. I will put my timer on. And let's just do 8 minutes. We'll do 8 minutes. It's about 5 more minutes, folks. Okay, guys, just 2 more minutes. Anything that you noticed or wonder or question about, and then we'll come back together for a quick round of conversation. All right, guys. Anything that you noticed in some of those standards that our kids were assessed on across grades? Take just a few moments, any of your noticings, and that could be across any grade or any questions that it raises for you. And this is really, honestly, we only have a couple of you on, so we'll keep this as brief as possible. We'll have to revisit this again when the entire team is able to be here to contribute to this. But Jen, Eden, Monique, anything that kind of resonated with you in regards to, or made you just had a couple of questions about any of the grade levels or any of the standards, um, or just something just to call out for us to pay attention to.
I found it interesting. It looked like fifth and eighth grade had some of the higher numbers that went up across the city, like based on the city comparison, basically, more than the other grades.
Thank you for that, Eden. Monique, anything you noticed?
I was looking at just grades 3, 4, and 5. And I was looking at the district percentage between 2024 and 2025. I noticed where it said all there were two columns. I'm sorry, let me see if I can pull that back up. I want to make sure I'm referencing. So there was a all reading column, and then the final column was I think an overall. I'm trying to see if I could get to
Yep.
that one. Okay. So I noticed that in grades 3 and 5, when you compare 2024 to 2025, there was progress. There was an increase in those numbers, in the percentages. And then for some reason, grade 4, 2024, 2025, I noticed there was a decrease, if I'm correct, in how I'm reading this.
Yeah, no,
Um,
you're correct. You're
okay.
correct. In
Yes.
both of those statements, there was an overall improvement in terms of percent gain. The grade 4 was relative to the drop that you saw to the city. So both the city and district, in terms of overall performance, saw a little bit of a decrease in terms of overall performance, and that was by about two points or so, 2 to 3 points in general. So we went from 66 to 63. City went from 64 to 61 in terms of overall points earned in a given standard, and that's what this is really measuring. Overall
Right.
points earned. It's not an indicator of what our proficiency will be. We'll have to wait and see when we get the actual results from the state.
Mhm.
But that's overall points earned by the 2,300 or so kids that took it.
Okay. And
That's
I
a good
did
noticing.
notice there's a huge jump in integration of knowledge and ideas, understanding visual elements in the text. Um, that's like that was a huge increase in that column there. In grade, let me see, what grade am I in? Sorry, there's a lot on this. Um, I'm what grade is this? I'm not sure what grade it
Yeah, I
is.
was in grade 5.
Grade 5?
We saw
Okay,
a big
okay.
difference from like 62 to
Oh, yes,
79
yes, I
from
see it
year over
highlighted
year.
now. Yes,
Yeah,
grade 5. I'm
yeah.
sorry about that. Yes, that's
Awesome.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. Jen, anything else that you want to throw in here?
Just one of the things was fifth grade was strongest in vocabulary, which was surprising to me, the first standard there, because usually we have a lot of our newer students coming in, so that they were stronger in vocabulary than third and fourth grade. That was just a little surprising.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look year over year, and unfortunately, it's only one question that's being asked, so
Yeah,
it's hard to gauge whether or not it was the question or was the vocabulary and context. But not, I'll take the idea of going from a 44 to a 70 any day of the week. So I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with that part of it.
let it go.
Um, but it was certainly an improvement from the previous year. And a similar type of scenario happened for grade 3 as well. Grade 3 went from, 60 overall performance in terms of points earned to in the 70s, in the mid 70s. So we saw a similar type of scenario, grades 3 and 5. Um, and, overall vocabulary acquisition types of questions, across grades was pretty strong, with the exception to grade 4 and grade 8, comparatively speaking. So we did see some positive changes when it comes to that. And anyone else that might be on that wants to contribute anything to us, again, we'll revisit this when the whole team is here, so we can look at it a little bit more in depth and in partnerships. But um, there are a lot of things that we were able to surface, and just in terms of standards, beginning to start thinking about where we're going to go as we look at this moving into next year. This is something for the DLT. This is not necessarily something that, we will be sharing widely as a result. All of our schools have this. They'll share with their SLTs. But this is for us to be able to make decisions with moving forward as a team. So what does this mean for us now going into the start of the year? It's going to be around conversations around MTSS, and you guys know this is not a foreign concept to us, but it is something that we do need to have our mind's eye on when we're going into next year. and expectations from the central team around, how we're strategically organizing for this. So all schools are going to be expected to identify a series of interventions and supplemental programs to support our students, especially those that are falling outside that sphere of success. And what our schools will be able to select from is within this next page. Now, these are things that are kind of fresh off the presses. This is things that we're going to be working on as a district and our schools to work collaboratively on making those decisions so that we don't have a huge range of interventions where it becomes difficult for us to monitor and support. The left-hand column here are the foundational programs which we are already using inside of our schools in terms of foundations. We do have some of the Wiley Blevins context in here in terms of support. Hegarty is a program we're already using, so we are already in a good space for the foundational skills programs. The programs that we do need to solidify in terms of what we choose as a collective district is in this middle column. So many of our schools use Spire. They use Spire in the foundational space of Sound Sensible, which is the earlier intervention to the other Spire program. We do have phonics for reading. We do have rewards in our schools. We do have Wilson, dependent on the school and who's trained. We have Just Words. And the goal is to really identify the 3 programs at the elementary school and as well as middle school that we'll say we're going to adopt as a district moving forward. So this is something that all of our SLTs will be engaging in that conversation when the year begins. And then certainly the use of supplemental programs. Our schools do have access to iReady, some of which purchase the instructional program part of it. Some of them have purchased Mira. Some of them use Alexia. We had one school using Edmentum, but I don't believe that's the case any longer. So we do want to continue to use these platforms to support some of that supplemental, whether it's in class and or at home. So more to follow on that, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a spotlight on the programs that we're going to be able to select from. These 10 were organized by the central team for us to review and then make decisions on as a district. Now, what does this mean for us in terms of our schoolwork? School level literacy plans to support improvement, particularly for kids that are struggling, as well as those that need that a little bit of enrichment. So calling out particular programming support for 4 to 5 periods per week inside of our school programs to support intervention as well as enrichment. So what many of our schools have organized is what they call a focus period or a win period, or you name it, the schools come up with an acronym for it. But we're going to kind of organize ourselves around this idea of a win period in District 25 that's really focused on providing intervention support for our kids, as well as enrichment for those that are currently performing on or above grade level, so that all children are receiving access to support in their classrooms. This is in addition to the core instructional part of the program, so no one's missing out on any of the enrichment or, any of the core instructional process. So this is something all of our schools will be working on and towards as the year goes on across our schools. Now, what does this mean in terms of assessment? So all of our buildings, as you guys know, administer Acadience iReady and iReady. We use MAP just for the integrated algebra, the Algebra 1 coursework. That will continue. We are in the process of discussing what that secondary screener will be. So all of our schools administer the primary screener, which is the universal screener. We are going to work towards making sure that we have a unified approach to secondarily screening our kids for children that are within the 35th percentile and lower. And the goal of that is to make sure that we're targeting kids that are kind of on the cusp of not meeting expectations. So what that looks like is that all students will receive the core instructional material. Kids in the 35th percentile will receive that secondary screener and targeted instruction, whether it's through small group or explicit targeted intervention 3 to 5 times per week. And the intensity of that changes dependent on whether or not they are in that lowest 16th percentile or they are in between those spaces so that they're getting the dosage necessary to support improvement. That's what we will be working on this year. Really, the difference between that tier 2, 3, and 3 is the dosage and the group size. So we're going to be really working hard this year on adjusting in that space so that the kids that need that intervention are receiving the supports necessary. And remember, each of our schools has a different layer of support, whether they have multiple AIS providers. Some of them don't necessarily have that. We will be working on this with in-classroom teachers as well to make sure that in-class support is provided. So there will be a range of approaches here, but needless to say, this will be an area that we focus on moving into next school year. And then lastly, it's about all schools making sure that they have the dedicated programming in order to make this work. So this will be something that our schools are connecting with. We have Tracy that's on who supports our programming, offered a sample schedule for our schools to kind of look through and add to make some adjustments into their program going into next school year. Again, many of our schools have already organized for this, but we're asking that all of our buildings make sure that they have a strategic period built in daily to support our children in intervention and enrichment. Does anyone have any questions, Eden or Monique, about this? Jen, you already know this, but if there's anything else that you would like to quickly chat about in regards to this, this is, again, not new to us, but we're going to get more strategic and drill down into this work as we move into this school year. Does anyone have any questions about that? Eden, any questions? Monique, any questions?
I had a question about slide, I think it was 7.
Sure. Is this the slide, Monique? Oh, did I lose you? Oh, I think she got kicked out. We will come back to Monique when she rejoins. I think she got kicked out or exited on her own, one or the other. Okay, when she rejoins, we will come back to it. But then it's about our DCEP. And this is not unfamiliar to you either at the DLT or for our principals. But these are some areas that we're talking about through the space of levers for improvement. And the goal is that you see a through line between all of this. So things that we're going to be focusing on as a district, some of the things that are coming from the central team, and things that we're asking our building leaders to focus on, you're going to see a through line through this work. So multi-tiered systems of support, really focusing on core, which is tier 1 instruction, small group instruction, and certainly MTSS. Use of curriculum resources with a focus on our Ls and students with IEPs. Aligned professional learning, specifically within the context of explicit instruction, making sure we're differentiating between literacy and math, and then partnering with communities. All of those things are part of our expectations. You guys already know our goals for reading and for reading when it comes to all students as well as our targeted groups. Now, the ways that we're intending to get there through our professional learning plan and mindset for this will be much more teased out as we organize the monthly, the every other month sessions that we intend to do. But focus on explicit instruction, use of resources. We intend to do this across cohort bands, K2, 3, 5, 6 to 8. Continued growth into codable text. I think we got a lot out of our work with Wiley Blevins last year, so we do want to continue that work. Ongoing support and focus on foundations and Acadience work. Our district point people, we will have a district point person assigned to every single one of our schools. School visits will range from 1 to 4 visits dependent on school need. Focus on PL guidance, teacher team support, instructional walkthroughs, organization of next steps and follow-up. And then lastly, teaching labs. All of our schools are going to be receiving coaching days. Focus on MTSS, focus on the needs of our school, ranging from 5 days to upwards of 20, dependent on school needs, and align with elements of explicit instruction. Goal number 2 is that all students are physically and emotionally safe. We're going to continue to push the mind up moments, conversation starters, and brain breaks, really promote those student-to-student relationship building, helping students manage those emotions. This is a under construction PL plan. We do want to continue our partnership with Ramapo, that is an organization that supports coaching for our teachers in terms of behavioral management. We will continue our partnership with MindUp. They will be offering a number of professional learning sessions. It will continue our focus with our school counselors and social workers. So more to follow on that. Mathematics, as you know, we will continue our work with meeting the expectations of the instructional shifts, as well as the implementation of the Amplify curriculum. So I'm not going to read all of this to you, but we do have a PL plan that kind of goes across cohorts, K2, 3, 5, 6, 8. There'll be support as well from Amplify themselves, ranging from 8 to 16 or so days from school to school. This will vary based on school need to roll out this new curriculum. We are also pushing for Game 24 tournaments and the first in math competitions. Our schools that participated did really enjoy it, so we are pushing for our schools to get involved and do that work moving forward. As I mentioned, Project Soapbox and Civics for All, as well as the Safe for College program. We do have a set of expectations in terms of PL planning, Civics for All work with our civics leads. We really want to push this across our schools, and the hope is that we, along with our CEC and DLT, have kids present on a routine basis their soapbox speeches so that we can see what those asks are and expectations that our kids have. Jen, who's on here sitting in for Rob today, knows firsthand what that looks like, and it's worked out really, really well for her with a new traffic light that was developed because of outreach to our local elected officials. So we want to continue to push that work in our schools, as well as the Safe for College program. Is primarily elementary school only, really pushing more of our families to get involved and create those accounts for those 529 plans. I think it's found money for our kids to continue to grow in over time, give them access for our families. And the last parts here is really about our schools getting into school survey data. We're asking that all of them do so moving into next year. And really starting with a community-based activity, community-based event. I've asked all of our principals to really think about how they can bring our kids back into and our schools back into a community-based event to get them excited for September. So more to follow on that, and hopefully you'll be hearing more about it from your SLT. And then lastly, it's going to be around cell phone policy and cell phone policy questions. I know this is really just a question for you, Eden. If you have any questions about cell phone policy, this will be things that our schools are going to be working on and towards. But in the end, it's going to mean that kids are going to be asked from the time they come in to the time they leave to have those cell phones turned off and away. And policies for our schools to make sure that there is a procedure for that in building. But is there anything that's come up, and Jen, anything that you've heard in addition to from your colleagues that we need to be mindful of other than what was brought up during the principals conference?
No, I mean, I think we're just all trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we will have more to follow. This will be voted on by the PEP in August, and as soon as that plan is finalized, we should be able to work more on that and through that. But Eden, did you have any questions about cell phone policy or anything else that we have in mind thus far?
No, I think the only thing is are we doing the honor system that we're trusting these kids that they are turning them off at that point, or is there some kind of checks and balances to that? I know there was a school that literally would collect the cell phones as the kids walked in. So I don't know, are we going towards that route? Like, I think that's where I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah, so it's going to vary from school to school, and the policy that the schools put together. In the end, all kids are expected to have those things turned off, from the time they enter the building to the time they exit the building. And the collection process will be different from school to school, likely based on what works best for them. Whether it's a purchased pouch, there's another school that's got like this. Um, I don't even know what it's called. It's kind of like this column where kids get assigned their number, and then they put the pouch in the number, and then that gets closed so that the kids can't access them till the end of the day. There are a number of different ways to go about doing it to make sure that they're turned off and away from the kids being able to access them. Now, listen, does it mean that there won't be children that are not crafty enough to, you know, try to take them out during the day? Sure, but I think that's also part of expectations and how we follow up with the kids to support next steps. So I do think it'll be a little bit bumpy in the beginning just to get the protocols down. But I think once that gets started and it becomes part of the norm, I think all of those things will fall into place. We do have some schools that are doing it now and they haven't had any issues. I know some of the concerns are what happens if they get lost and yada yada yada. But we'll work through that too with our families and kids. But I think in general it's a good thing. Um, you know, Phones tend to create more problems sometimes than they're worth. Um, so we'll kind of play that by ear, but that's the direction that we're going to be going, and not because the district said so, because the state said so. And I think that's a big part about this is that it's not us creating a rule or a law on our own. It's about following what it states from the state. We'll kind of go from there. Okay. And the last thing that I would like to get some feedback on is planning for SLT training. I like to do it in October if we can. But over the years, I never really liked the format of it. People either come into a virtual space or into an auditorium and they just listen to someone speak for 2 hours. It's not engaging. It's not exciting. There's no community building. So I'm wondering if you guys had any thoughts about that. I was thinking about it more like we go into a school and then maybe we have breakout sessions that are available for our SLTs to connect with and maybe even come together on, so we learn together and then come together as a collective group to discuss, what we've heard, whether it's through, goal setting or progress monitoring, action planning, roles of parents, roles of teachers, roles of administrators. I don't know. I just feel like it's a better use of time than just having, folks just listen and, maybe hear 1% of what was shared instead of really participating and understanding the work. Wondering if you guys have any thoughts on that so that we can begin designing, and then having everyone kind of take their role in what they get to present to folks in smaller spaces rather than everyone just sitting in the auditorium and then take a number kind of thing. Any thoughts on that?
I like the idea of having everybody meet in small groups. I think that sharing what we're doing with each other would be really effective, like hearing ideas about how we organize our meeting, what the content is. We've grown from, years ago where I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with 3 hours of time? And now we have like an interactive agenda and a slideshow, and, it's all broken up into parts, and it's made our meetings a lot more meaningful. So to be able to hear from colleagues and other teams how they structure and what the content of their meetings is, I think would be a really nice opportunity for everybody.
Love that, Jen. Anyone else thoughts? about shifting it from that, here's the Zoom space or here's just everyone sitting in an auditorium to more of that breakout scenario. And maybe perhaps we can get some feedback from teams beforehand, the things that they want to know more about. And then we can structure our rooms that way and have a series of breakout rooms to support that work a little bit differently than the current space. I just feel like people go and they're there just because I'm asking them to be there, and they have to complete the training. To make it more meaningful makes more sense than to just go through the motions. And I feel like sometimes that's what it becomes. Lamar, any comments? And welcome, Lamar.
I think, like you said, Dr. Mike, beforehand, maybe surveying the principals and asking what they feel strong about. Like I can say, oh, we made this slideshow now and we have slides and that's what drives our meetings content. I could share that and, just go around. I think that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just important. It plus just the engagement part of it alone. I mean, you're gonna have to spend 2 hours of your day. It should be at least 2 hours of your day that's found to be meaningful than to just listen to someone. So I think we have to try to organize that differently, and that can be, perhaps one of the stations. How am I organizing my meeting? So that not only because I think it's good for SLTs to hear too, so that they're not on their own island, so to speak, and they have someone that they can lean in on and know what they can and should be doing during those meetings. Okay. All right, so that concludes my portion of it. Gus, unfortunately, is not able to be here today, so he will not be able to present and share. All of our schools at this point, just so you know, this is something that Gus would share, is around CEP attestation to goals, the budget attestation. So we're in good shape there as a district. What I will be doing between now and the next 2 weeks is be reading through each of our CEPs along with Melinda and Umit from the team to certify that those goals are aligned with budget. And then we will be all set moving into the start of the school year with goals they're tentative goals that have been established, so that come September, when our SLTs start meeting with our principals again, we can really solidify them and get them all done. Hopefully by that point, scores will also be in, so that any of our buildings can make any necessary adjustments, but dependent on the performance of our children in terms of percentages. But the overarching theme of our goals shouldn't really change all that much. So there's not really much more from Gus's standpoint other than timeline, which we are already meeting the expectations of the timeline. And he will have more when he does return in August. UFT, do we have anything from UFT, as high schools are not able to join us today either? Vacation schedules didn't allow for it. But UFT, Lamar, do you have anything that you need to share and check in on?
Nothing to share so far. So far, summer's been very quiet, so everything's all well on this end.
I love it when it's all well. Beautiful. Jen, anything from CSA?
Just that principals are working hard on programming and planning for a small class size reduction. And we're excited to dive into our instructional reports and use that information to drive our MTSS plans for September.
Thank you, Jen. Eden, anything CEC wise?
So we just had our first CEC meeting of the new term last week, and we have almost an entire new team of individuals. Yeah. So that was very nice to see a nice change and get to know everyone. Our next meeting is going to be August 6th, and that will be at 7 p.m. We do have our board picked, and we will be planning our calendar for the rest of the year of like what we're going to be doing each month over month as we get into the new year. So
awesome. Thank you, Eden. And I know Monique got kicked off. I'm not sure. She doesn't seem to have been able to make it back. Jenny, maybe you can just follow up with her, let her know that we were, hopeful that she was able to rejoin. If she's got anything, she can always text us. This is, going to go in as an unofficial meeting anyhow, as we do not have quorum to roll this out completely. But the only nice part about that is that it makes it a very snappy meeting. I do want to applaud all of our principals for getting Summer Rising up and running, and more than that, happy kids inside of our classrooms. It's one thing to close out a year, but to close out and then begin another chapter with a very quick turnaround for Summer Rising. Our building leaders have been able to do that, so big shout out and thanks to them. And we have about 3 weeks remaining inside of this program, so hoping that it's really, really something that benefits all of our kids moving forward. So thanks out to our CSA and our U of T members for making this really a good experience for our kids, as well as our DC 37 folks also. But other than that, guys, we're going to bring this to a close. Can't really come to a consensus because we do not have quorum, so we will just bring this to
And how about next month's meeting?
Yes, next month we did have to change it to August the 18th. The previous week, which it was originally slated for, unfortunately, I will not be around for that time, so we did have to change it to August 18th when I return. Okay, so we will send out a reminder for that, and hopefully we will have our high school folks here, as well as our other constituent groups, which will be difficult. We will likely not have quorum for that, as we have both President's Council and a DPAC that have to go through their election process to make sure that we have folks in and ready to serve in those roles. So as soon as we do, then we can have a full-on DLT team. But other than that, guys, I thank you for being here. I'm sorry it's a short one, but I'm sure you guys don't mind. Have a great rest of your morning, everyone.